Look, electric cars are on the rise, and with more EVs means more batteries to charge, and more batteries to charge means more demand on vehicle charging stations, right? But why don't we take the EVs and stick solar panels to them? That would essentially make a car that never needs to be charged, right? But given the limitations of current technology, that approach is practically impossible. And companies like Hyundai, Toyota, and Aperta, who claim to be soon releasing cars that have a solar roof and can be charged with the sun, are using pretty misleading advertising. And I'll tell you why. So an EV, especially the recent ones, okay, they are pretty powerful. A second generation Nissan Leaf has a motor that can output a maximum of 110 kilowatts, while a Tesla Model 3 has motors that can output anywhere between 200 kilowatts and like 370 kilowatts, depending what model you use. Just for comparison, an average household microwave uses up around 1000 watts, okay? So driving a Nissan Leaf at full power is essentially like having 110 microwaves all running at the same time. And for a Tesla, it's having over 200 microwaves running at the same time. Now, let's bring solar panels into the picture. So a typical 500 watt solar panel is around 2 meters by 1 meter. Essentially, that's the size of a door you would have in your house. So that means that if one panel, a 2 by 1 panel is 500 watts, you would need 220 of those panels just to power up the Nissan Leaf. That's the lesser powerful car in the electric car market, right? So if we had to stack all these solar panels next to each other, that would make a strip of around 220 meters by 2 meters. That's essentially a quarter of a kilometer of solar panels just to be able to use the full power of a Nissan Leaf. And I'm not even going to mention the calculations for a Tesla, because that's on the other side of the spectrum. Okay, I get it. Maybe channeling power directly from a solar panel to a car is a bit far-fetched, but what about having a battery in between? So essentially it's the same electric car, but it's being charged by a solar panel on the roof, for example. And that's essentially what the companies I've mentioned, like Hyundai with its Ioniq 5, did I read that correctly? Ioniq 5, yes. And the Toyota has its BZ4X, like they could at least make their names a little more human-friendly. But that's essentially what they're trying to achieve by having a panel charging a battery. So how practical is that really? So the Hyundai Ioniq 5 states that after leaving the car with the solar roof out in the sun for a whole day, it will increase your range by, guess what? 5 kilometers. So essentially, leaving the car out for a whole day in full-blown sun will only give you 5 more kilometers of range, okay, compared to, say, the amount of range per hours you could get by just plugging it in. To be fair though, the Aptera gets to win this round because of its marketed 25 kilometers of added range for every day it spends in the sun. And that's just the base model, because you could pay extra to have more solar panels installed, and that could even increase your added range by over 60 kilometers per day in the sun. And that's pretty good, right? Because many people, especially living in cities, they don't necessarily need to go further than 60 kilometers in a day. Now, with that last point, I might have debunked my initial statement, right? But these numbers of added range are many times attributed to perfect conditions. What do I mean by perfect conditions? So first of all, the day must be perfectly sunny. Okay, so no clouds, no storms, just sun. Secondly, you need to park in the sun So parking under a tree or parking in a parking lot won't work. Thirdly, you need to constantly clean the surface of the car, because you couldn't have dirt or mud laying on the solar panels, because the moment you have that, you start losing efficiency. That means that if any of these three clauses are tempered in any way, the sunny days, the parking in the sun, and the cleanliness of the panel, you will see your added range plummet significantly. This brings another important point to mind. People who own EVs are actually suggested by their mechanics and electricians to try to avoid as much as possible leaving their car in the sun, because a lot of heat can reduce the life expectancy of your battery. So this is where the irony kicks in. Having a solar-powered EV means that you are encouraged to keep it in the sun to charge it, but equally keeping it in the sun and hence in the heat will also reduce your battery capacity over time. So, well, it's essentially a double-edged sword at this point. Now, this last point could be solved by having complicated battery cooling systems that are found, for example, in high-end EVs. But again, if you want something more fancy, you need to pay for it. So, to be clear, I have nothing against EVs. This thing has been going off for the last half hour. So to be clear, I have nothing against EVs. Actually, I've owned and driven an EV for the past 4 years, and I want EVs to be more and more normalized. But at the same time, I have to be honest and real about the technological limitations. So in conclusion, forget about having solar panels powering your EV directly without batteries. Okay, there has to be some sort of technological miracle which allows solar panels to be very small and very, very powerful for that to be the case. For the other option, okay, for having a solar panel charging your battery and then powering your car through that battery, unless you're willing to have a car that's designed and built around that concept, like the Aptera, you will not get much range out of the panel. Actually, it gets to the point where I believe keeping the car in the sun just to charge it will cause more battery degradation later in the future of that car than actually having extra miles added at that point in time while charging. So it depends whether you're willing to take a hyper-futuristic car down for a drive. I would, as in I have a thing for futuristic designs, so let me be a fanboy in peace. Hence, if in the future we would like to take this path where we will have sufficient power coming from solar panels when driving cars, we would need to significantly change car design. We have to go away from the typical box designs and have to follow more of a super aerodynamic and flat design as suggested by Aptera. Okay, so as long as we are not willing to, drive these land planes, we cannot really expect much from sticking solar panels to roofs of normal shaped cars. So let us know what you think. Would you drive a car like the Aptera? And do you actually believe that in the future EVs can become solar powered? Let us know in the comments. And that's all from my side. I am Antonio, and see you in another episode of Sci Solved.